So let's return to the United Kingdom now, and joining me from Liverpool is David Jeffery. He's a political analyst and lecturer at Liverpool University. David, thank you for joining me tonight. You've heard that dude mantra that Boris Johnson has put forward. How likely is he to pull it off?
He's a man who likes to take risks, he likes to take gambles, and they do usually pay off. In this case, though, he might have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew. As you said in your segment just then, things haven't changed. The challenges that face Theresa May still face Boris Johnson, and he's got a lot of people out against him within his own party, so it's a big ask.
So this is a moment several years in the making for Boris Johnson. What do you believe it does for the Tories as a whole?
Well, Boris has what people call a Heineken effect, right? He reaches part of the electorate that other Conservatives can't. For the Conservatives as a whole, it's a bit of a fresh start. He's not like Theresa May in many respects, especially around things like immigration. He's always championed himself as a bit of a social liberal, and it could be a way for the Conservatives to build a new coalition, but only if they can get Brexit sorted. And again, the fundamentals are still the same, so that the infighting is still there.
So at least 3 MPs have said that they would not stay on if Boris Johnson was elected. Is this likely to trigger more MPs to follow suit?
Possibly, yes. So we see with the election of Jo Swinson as leader of the Liberal Democrats, of a pro-Remain, anti-Brexit party, opening her arms, opening the party to defectors, and there'll be many Conservative MPs who are tempted. Boris Johnson, with a wafer-thin majority now, a working majority of about 2, needs all the support he can get, and it looks increasingly likely that we will see an early general election.
Now, Brexit is the reason why we're here at this juncture. Some analysts have gone as far to say that if Boris Johnson doesn't deliver on his Brexit promises, this could spell the end of the Tory party. What do you say to that?
There's always been big events that people have said spell the end of the Conservative Party, so going back as far as the Corn Laws, New Labour in 1997, and the Conservative Party does always seem to bounce back. So the consequence of New Labour was David Cameron's modernisation project. There's no doubt that if the Conservatives don't deliver Brexit, they will be damaged in the polls, but they do seem to find a way to come back, and I don't think it will be the end of the party, but they'll be out of office for a very long time.
Now, we all know Boris Johnson as the so-called charismatic enigma, but when the pressure's on and he really has to knuckle down, not just on, you mentioned the whispers in his party and people sort of like standing against him, and now he has to deliver on Brexit. When it comes to the crunch, can he actually perform?
Yes and no. There are many examples of Boris actually pulling it out of the hat and delivering successes. So the Olympic Games, for example, a huge success. Even a few weeks up until then, people were saying it was going to be a disaster, and that was a definite PR victory for him. Winning 2 terms in London, quite a liberal city, Boris Johnson pulled it out of the hat, defeating Labour. Other times, though, his tenure as Foreign Secretary was marred with controversy. He wasn't seen as very effective. So with Boris, it really is 50-50 however it goes, and a lot of what will make his prime ministership a success is if he surrounds himself with the right people, and if he is willing to reach out to people that perhaps Theresa May wasn't necessarily always willing to reach out to, but also if they're willing to be reached out to, because, as I said twice already, the fundamentals haven't changed.
So Donald Trump is another factor here. He says that he likes Boris Johnson and they seem to share a special kind of rapport. How will that relationship play out?
I think the most important thing that Boris Johnson could get from Donald Trump would be some sort of agreement on a potential trade deal along the lines of maybe what the EU has negotiated with Canada, say, to show both the EU and doubters in his own party that actually he's the man who can work with America, and that the UK can still pursue these free trade deals that many Brexiteers actually wanted in the first place. If he can get something like that from Donald Trump, then he'll put himself in a very strong position. The second best thing Donald Trump can do really is stay out of British politics, because although he might be, loved by a small section of people within the Conservative Party, the vast majority of the British public aren't massive fans, and it doesn't do Boris's liberal credentials any good to be too closely aligned with the US president.
Finally, David, we should also mention Jeremy Hunt, who was defeated convincingly and didn't really ever pose a threat to Boris Johnson. Where does he go from here?
Well, I think for Jeremy Hunt, it's been a good contest. He's shown himself to be a thoughtful, kind of honest, decent man, a good conservative in the eyes of many, and he's never really played dirty throughout the contest, which is probably reflects his own personality. I think Boris Johnson will be foolish not to reward him with a cabinet position, because if he is trying to build unity, he's trying to build a cohesive party that can move forward together. Jeremy Hunt needs to be in that cabinet, essentially. You don't want someone now with, support of a third of the party on the back benches.
David Jeffery, thank you very much for joining us.